California.
What's up, YouTube? It's ArtisanMc, and today I'm going to review Reminiscence, starring Hugh Jackman. I got wind of this movie by going back to the theaters. All right, first couple of movies I went back to see in the theaters after lockdown was lifted. Reminiscence was playing in the trailers ahead of time, and I didn't really know what the movie was about. All right, and that's something that I look for in movies. If I can watch the trailer and I'm curious, but I don't know everything that's happening in the movie, that usually piques my interest a little more. The other thing that piqued my interest was the title. It's a long word that most people don't read and don't understand. Probably wouldn't know how to pronounce it correctly. That also piqued my interest because that's usually an indication that something more heady or intellectual is going on in the movie, and I get into those type of movies. So when I saw it had Hugh Jackman, which is a sell for me. I'll watch something with Hugh Jackman in it. Don't mind him at all acting in other things outside of the X-Men. He's been good. He's been solid, right? Then I saw Thandie Newton in it. I've been watching Thandie Newton for a long time, since Flirting back in, what was it, the 90s or something like that. If you know what movie that is, go back and look at it. But it's a movie from Australia or something like that. Europe. I've been watching her for a long time, so I like seeing her in movies, right? What's going on in the trailer seems really cryptic, is not even the word for it. There's a lot to do with water, and I get into water, obviously, because I clean myself. But I get into that water motif or theme in there, and you're seeing a city flooded out, which is not Venice, which looks pretty interesting to me, right? So, be that as it may, I saw the trailer, and when the movie was coming out, I made sure that I was going to see it. And what I saw in this movie was a bit surprising, and in some ways, stuff that I've seen before, with a twist. Now, initially, from the trailer, you can say this movie looks a lot like Inception. Okay, that's just right off the bat. You can say it looks a lot like Inception because at the end of Inception, you had Leonardo DiCaprio's character Cobb washing up on his the shore of his subconscious, right? Unconstructed dream space. And you see all these crumbling cities with the water right at the city, right? Which is interesting. And this is something that this movie Reminiscence plays on. It plays on this whole water-filled scene. Now, how they explain where all this water comes from in the movie is interesting, but they don't go into really why there's a purpose for it being there. I mean, it was just backdrop. It just made it interesting, I guess, because you could have took all the water out of this and the story still would have been interesting to me. You just wouldn't have had all the water all over the place, which, I don't know, all that much standing water sounds like disgusting to me, especially with people around it. So that's off the jump. But what else I got from this movie was a lot of other themes and a lot of other ideas that I saw pulled from other movies thrown into it, which in and of itself is not a bad thing. Okay, movies pull on other movies a lot of times, but it's how you use that material and make something new with it without disrespecting the source of where you got it from. Right. So you get Hugh Jackman's character of Nick Bannister, and Nick Bannister is pretty much like in the role of Leonardo DiCaprio in Inception. Nick Bannister runs a business. It's him and his partner Watts, played by Thandie Newton, and they run a business where people pay them to get into their kind of like a sensory deprivation tank, or little aqua tank where they can sit there and float, jack into their memories, and relive their memories and have them recorded and let the person who's seeing their memories guide them through to these memories to find out stuff that they missed or that they lost, which in and of itself seems pretty much ripped from Inception, to where in Inception, when you went back, when Leonardo DiCaprio's character went back to find a doctor for his medication, and they were in Mumbai, and he's having a conversation with this old guy in there, and he's telling him about why people would come to that den to dream for so long. And he tells them they don't come here to dream, they come here to be alive. Well, if you took that concept and stretched it out into a 2-hour movie of people going back into their own dreams and their memories to live, this is kind of what you get from Reminiscence, which is what Reminiscence is. It's remembering what has passed and lamenting on it. Okay? Now, Hugh Jackman and Van Dewey Newton's character Watts were in the military together, and after the polar ice caps melted and flooded all these cities, there were wars and stuff like that for borders. I don't know what border, they never really explained that part, or whatever, and that's how they ended up hooked up together. And they run this business to help people. Now, at one point, a woman comes in, and the woman who comes in is Rebecca Ferguson, and playing the character of May. And she comes in for something simple, which is she lost her keys, which seems stupid. Like this, it seems like this would be expensive to do, just to lose your keys. But because he's attracted to her off the bat, Nick goes ahead and lets her get hooked up to the machine and finds a bunch of other information and falls in love with her from first sight and the song that she sings. Now from there, she leaves, helps her find her keys and some other stuff, and gets to know a little bit more about her. And from there, he kind of tracks her down and gets involved in a relationship with her. And after like 3 months or so, she just disappears. Doesn't know where she's gone. She just paid off her landlord and she's gone. Now, this bothers Nick, and he spends a lot of his time going into the Reminiscence machine and trying to find clues as to why she left. What was it that made her leave? What kind of clue can she find? Because in his mind, people just don't disappear like that. Now, what he finds when he starts investigating his own memories and other people's memories about her is that she is tangled up in some stuff that he didn't know about. And through the course of doing some side work for the police, he goes into the mind of a criminal looking for this gangster or whatever. And the gangster he finds, she's there 5 years ago, mixed up with this gangster and drugs and all kind of shit. And it starts unraveling more of what he did not know about her. And he's learning all of this by going through other people's memories. Now, this part of the movie, this is striking on a couple of things for me. It's reminded me of a bunch of different movies all at the same time, right? Now, the first one being Strange Days with, I think it was Ralph Fiennes and Angela Bassett. One of my favorite movies with Angela Bassett in it, and Juliette Lewis. And in this movie, they have this same type of headgear rig that they put on, and it goes into your visual cortex and shows you everything that you have seen and experienced, because it gets recorded onto disc. And through this, they end up getting wrapped up in a murder. They end up getting wrapped up in the morning because they have this information. Now, this could just be a Strange Days 2021 at that point. It could be, because it looks like the same kind of technology. It's doing pretty much the same thing. It's the same kind of mystery. What happened? Who done it? Right? The other thing is pulling on for me is the movie Dark City with William Hurt, and I'm forgetting this other dude's name with the weird eye, but he always plays villains and stuff like that now. And Jennifer Connelly when she still had, the nice figure. Okay. Dark City is one of those movies that I really love about a group of aliens trying to figure out what it means to be human. And they trap all these humans in a city floating in space to keep analyzing them, and they end up developing powers. Now, that's all well and good, but then there's another movie that jumps to mind with how they're using this technology to show these people their memories and stuff. The next one is Final Cut, starring Robin Williams. And it's one of the last movies Robin Williams did. And in this, Robin Williams is called a cutter. And what he does, he takes the recordings from some person's disc or chip that's implanted in their heads. And when they die, he takes that chip and cuts it up into a movie that is played at their funeral. And it's all scenes from their life. It's their memory of their life. And he cuts it up. And that's why it's called Final Cut. Now, the other movie that pulls on is Deja Vu, starring Denzel Washington and Paula Patton. Now, in Deja Vu, they had the technology to basically look back in time at a certain window in time and see what was happening at that moment. And Denzel Washington is working trying to solve an explosion of all these people getting killed. And it seems like he was there at the explosion. This is a bunch of information that doesn't make sense, but there's some new age tech they're going to use, and they're going to send him back in time to try to figure out this whole terrorist plot explosion. Okay. Now, mind you, that's like 6 movies already going on in this same thing. And strangely enough, some of it works. Some of it just looks like it's parody. But the story for me in this movie, where Hugh Jackman's character of Nick coming back to the Reminiscence movie is actually trying to find out what happened to this woman, seems a bit obsessive. It seems obsessive in the sense that this is one woman that you know about that he's had any feelings for, and he can't let her go. For the 3 months that he spent with her, he can't let her go. Which, I'm an older man, I understand that stuff can happen, and some people can leave indelible marks on you forever. Okay, all well and good. But for this character, it seems like he's going a little bit too hard. Now, what you end up finding out from going through this criminal's mind, and then the character of Nick going and searching out this drug kingpin and finding out some other things, is that this woman got into some shit, and she was pretty much a grifter. That, I don't want to give away some of the twists, but she is not completely on the up and up. And all this love and stuff that he's remembering and stuff like that was the time he had with her. But there's a lot deeper secrets in this chick. Okay, that probably spoiled the movie, but you should still watch the movie anyway. Now, through the course of this, you get some really powerful performances. Or not powerful performances, but you get some really good performances from Dan Dewey Newton playing Watts. From, what's his name? Cliff Curtis playing Cyrus Booth, which Cliff Curtis is in everything as every other race but his own. But I kind of like this character of Cyrus, and he has a moment in there where he gives a speech that I'm going to go back and watch for a third time to really pull some information out of it, because I think it was something a little deeper going on with his speech, right? And it's about understanding who people are, which is significant. And the other standout performer is Daniel Wu playing St. Joe, right? And basically, it's a New Orleans Southern Asian man, which is just, I don't know, it's all kind of wrong to me. It just sounds weird as hell to say. But when he's in the scene, it's interesting. He is interesting to look at. It's interesting to see his performance as this character, and it's just fun for me. So, through the course of this movie, you get to the point where Nick has found out a lot more about the woman that he thought he knew, that he keeps reminiscing over, and coming to some terms with that and dealing with the situation surrounding her and why certain things happened the way they did that set up this movie. But it gives a good point on learning something. And there was a quote that I wrote down that the main point of the movie is that you need to move forward. You can remember your past, but you cannot live in it. And what this character does by the end of the movie, to me, seemed a bit stupid. Like he was being a coward in some senses, which is kind of disappointing, but some of the stuff at the very end may not hold up over time. Like, why would he do that? That's dumb. It's dumb as fuck. But what you understand in this, through this, is that people have a hard time letting go. And have a hard time of letting go of things that were the past and just remembering the past for what it is. And most of the people who profit in this world understand what it is and don't reject it. But you see some of the characters here do have a problem with remembering the past and altering the past and making it more than it was and not accepting it in context of what it was. So they all have problems with moving ahead and moving forward in life and not trying to dwell and live in the past. So that was it. That was it for me. I'm trying not to leave too much, or not to say too much, I should say. I'm trying not to say too much so that you can go back and watch the movie, since it just came out. You can watch it and enjoy it without saying this asshole on YouTube just spoiled the whole thing for me. I don't like doing that. So with that, I'm going to end it right here. I would recommend it for a watch. Even mentioning all those other movies that I did that I see pieces of it in there, I'd still give it a watch because it's still its own original story and it's not pulling so heavy on these small elements from other movies that it weighs down the movie and you can't even get into it. It's not that for me. So that's it for me on Reminiscence. I have watched it twice now just because I fell asleep the first time I watched it, just because it was late and I'm just tired. But today I watched it all the way through, enjoyed it, got a lot to think about, some really good visuals, some really good scenes in it that was interesting to me. So I will watch it again, probably tomorrow, and check out Cyrus's speech. So like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.